Welcome to Fun Palais Podcast, where we are unpacking opinions and changing destinations. I am your host, Shirley Altador, where each week we will chat about how to rise strong out of all types of obstacles that come with relationships. Through personal life experiences and discussions ranging from infidelity, trust, forgiveness, sex, heartbreak, self-love, and so much more. I am passionate and obsessed to provide guidance to every woman to create a better life. Let's dive in, pull up a seat, make sure you're cozy, and get ready to be challenged and encouraged while you learn. With me, your virtual girlfriend. Welcome back to another episode of Fun Palais Podcast. Today for story time, we have a special guest with us. We have Amanda. Amanda is coming from a past of drug abuse, homelessness, and being a convicted felon. Amanda has broken through and was able to let the good things into her life. Amanda is now on a mission to inspire people just like you, people who have had a difficult past and haven't yet realized they are stronger than they think and can have the life they deserve. Amanda wants to help you rise above the labels of society and burst through the ceilings that you have put on top of yourself. Amanda, welcome to the show. How are you today?
Hi, Shirley. Thank you so much for having me. I'm doing well. How are you?
I am doing good. Thank you so much for being a guest. I appreciate all the guests coming on the show to sharing their story because, again, as I say this many times, it takes a tremendous amount of courage to open up your heart, not be afraid to voice yourself and share your story with others. And like I just said, and like you said in your bio, allow society to label you or to always have a negative comment. So I want to thank you.
Thank you.
Wonderful. So I'm going to pass you the mic for you to start off with your story and share with us.
Yes. So it is a long story. So I will tell you a lot of it, but not all the little details because we would be here all day. Or maybe all week. I don't know. Um, so I'll tell you. So growing up until the age of 15, my mother and I, we were very close. We had she was my mother, but she was also my ultimate best friend. I loved her so much and I always looked up to her and I wanted to be just like her. We were just very, very close. So it all changed at age 15 when I come home from high school and I find out my parents are no longer together and my mother had left. So, my father, he wasn't a bad person, but he was very emotionally unavailable. So I never went to him for anything. I always felt like I was striving to be daddy's girl. We never had that close bond. So here I am, I think I was a freshman in high school. And, I'm left with this man who I don't even know how to talk to. And my mother, my best friend, just left and didn't tell me bye, or it was just like she's gone. So that was the first time in my life that, besides for school and the obvious things, that I felt like I just wasn't good enough. I didn't deserve to be loved. My mom left me. And then my father, he tried his best to continue to raise me, but I kept messing it up. So I would rebel. I would do things. I would I ran away once,
Mhm.
just always acting out because I wanted attention that I felt I wasn't getting. Eventually, he meets a woman and gets remarried. Well, they didn't get remarried yet, but he met this woman, and all of a sudden, I'm completely alone. This was, I went to college right out of high school, and when I came home, I failed out because all I wanted to do was party and get into trouble and just wasn't going to class. And so I was very disappointed in myself. And then when I came home, my father was selling the house that I grew up in. And I would wake up to people walking around my house. He shut the cable off. I wasn't allowed to run the air conditioning. Like I was just like on an island at age 19, like, just by myself.
Oh my.
So, I was always looking outwards. I wanted to be accepted and I wanted to be loved. I had been let down by everyone I loved at this point in my life, my parents included. Just I felt so alone. So that led me to attract a lot of toxic relationships into my life. I was cheating on my boyfriend all the time. I was partying and then one fine day, well, no, wait, I'm going too far. So at age 19, I ended up within a toxic relationship and I got pregnant. This is
Okay.
a very pivotal moment. And at the time, I was like, well, I don't want to be pregnant. Like, this is horrible. And this is, my whole life is now not the same. But I couldn't have an abortion. I just couldn't bring myself to do it. So I made the choice to put her up for adoption. And so around, I think I was 20 by the time I had her. And so I gave her up for adoption.
Okay.
And at first, I thought I was okay with it. Like, I was like, "Okay, cool, I'm not pregnant, I can smoke cigarettes and party again. Yay, hoorah."
Mhm.
But that quickly turned into a very dark storm, and I was so depressed, and I just wanted someone to talk to, and I ended up leaning on a guy who would eventually abuse me physically, mentally, sexually, like, all of it. It was a very toxic relationship, but my self-worth was so low that I thought this is what I deserved, and I didn't see a way out. I thought this is just gonna be my life, and this is how I was gonna live, and I had a son with this person. And when my son was about 6 months old, I did leave. He threatened to
Mhm.
kill me, and my mom actually, came and rescued me from that situation, which led me to be homeless because I had to go to a shelter. I had nowhere to go. So, after all of that turmoil, I ended up moving in with a good friend of mine, and she introduced me to cocaine, and cocaine became my other best friend very quickly. And I ended up at a strip club. My sister
Girl,
was
there's
yeah,
so
it was
many
my
levels to this. I'm like
there's so much.
mentally taking notes, and then I had to jot some stuff down because I'm like, I got so many questions for her.
Yes, there's a lot, but the last part I can tell fairly I can breeze through it because there's just too much. If I keep going, like I said, we will be here all day. So I move in with my friend. We were doing cocaine all the time. We end up at this strip club
Mhm.
and I meet this older man who told me that he had a job for me at his company. I could work from home. He'd supply everything. And I was like, well, why wouldn't I take this opportunity?
Mhm.
This seems so legit at a strip club at the bar. I mean, what else could he be up to? Well, he did not have some fancy job for me. He wanted me to essentially be his escort. He said there would be no sex. So I was like, at the time, I was broke, addicted to cocaine. I had my child I needed to also take care of. And I said, well, if we're not having sex, I guess,
Mhm.
like that'll do, So I met up with him one time. We went on a date and somehow I ended up at his apartment,
Mhm.
and I remember telling him, "Please take me home, like, I don't wanna be here, like, there's no reason for me to be here." And he was like, "Well, come back here and lay down with me." And I was like, don't really want to, but I'm kinda trapped, so I'm gonna have to." And I did and my phone kept going off, and he said if my phone went off one more time, that he was gonna kill me. So I just submitted to whatever he wanted. There was no actual sex that happened, but he did force me to do things that I will not speak of. So, it was very traumatic. And after that, he did take me home after he assaulted me. And my friend, it was a while after, but it was a couple months after that had happened. I had finally told my friend what he had done and we were broke, so she was like, "Well, we should just rob him." And I was like at the time, I'm just like, "Okay, like, we're not actually gonna do this." Like, I'm a shy, like, introverted, not a bad girl person.
Mhm.
And even though I had been living that way for so long, I still inside was that scared little girl. But no, it was actually a thing, and I felt like, "Okay, well, if I don't follow through, I'm gonna lose my friend." So, I followed through. Now, mind you, we only got about I was driving, it was my car, and there was 5 of us all together, and we only got about, maybe halfway there, and I looked at my friend and I said, "We're going to jail tonight. I don't wanna do this." She was like, "Oh, come on." I was like, "Well, I can't drive because I was just, like, started just shaking.
Mhm.
I was so scared, and So instead of, just getting out of the car and letting them go and do the thing by themselves, I let her drive. So I pull off the highway, I get out of my car and I get back in it to go because I couldn't lose her. She was my more than a friend. She was like my sister to me. So we get there and that happened and I wasn't in the apartment when they actually robbed him. I got so scared I ran out and laid in my car and waited for them. And so the cops, we didn't even get out of the parking lot of the apartment complex. I'm being pulled over at gunpoint on one of the busiest streets. And there's people like it's like a highway, but there's businesses on each side. So it's like a
Mhm.
45 mile an hour road. And people are on the other side at a restaurant parking lot, like watching all of this go down. So now I'm being pulled over at gunpoint. I have to like get out of my car and like show my hands, and now I'm being arrested face down on the pavement. And I remember laying there on the pavement thinking, I really need to get my son because I was gonna go and get him that night. And I could not, like, there's no words for how much I was crying. Like I just couldn't handle it. I thought I was dreaming. And the cops had told me that if I tell them the truth that I would get out, I wouldn't see jail because I hadn't actually touched the crime. I just knew
Mhm.
about it and I was there.
Mhm.
And well, I did tell the truth. And what I didn't know is in doing that, that I was going to be in jail with all of my co
Conspirators.
yeah, whatever you wanna call them. Now knowing that Amanda decided it would be a great idea to tell the police everything and put it in writing, and they all got a copy of it.
Oh my gosh, and you didn't
Yes.
know any better. How old were you at this
Uh-huh.
time, Amanda?
I was 23, I wanna
Okay.
say. Yeah, I was about 23. Yeah, so, in that experience, I went through a lot, because when you get arrested and you get out, I actually didn't get bailed out that day. Everyone else did, though. I watched everyone walk away while I sat there. It took
Oh.
about a week, so I was in main population of county jail for a week at this point, and when you get out, you're left with not knowing whether or not you're going back. And it takes about a year to get through all of the different stages of a court case in the criminal defense system here where I live. And so I lived a whole year of my life not knowing if I had a future or not. Like in my mind,
Mhm.
that was what I felt.
Mhm.
And so I kept attracting more toxicity into my life. Like I didn't take the high road. I was like, okay, well, I made this mistake, so I need to make it right. I'm going to get a good job. I'm going
Mhm.
to, focus and be a good person. No, I went down the dark path. I myself was a stripper during this time, and a lot of just crazy happened there. And then I get sentenced. I'm pregnant. Oh, I got pregnant
Oh,
from a
okay.
client at the strip club. We started dating and he got me pregnant. So now I'm at sentencing and I'm pregnant. And I'm like, and the DA, the district attorney, he liked me and he said he didn't think I should see jail. So I was like, okay, like
Okay.
if they're gunning for me, I'm not going to see jail. And I'm pregnant. So like I'm not going to go to jail. Well, I got sentenced. I got convicted of criminal conspiracy to commit robbery with intent of serious bodily injury because we had knives on us. No one used the knives, like there was
Mhm.
nothing like that. But the fact that we had them made it that charge, and that meant I had to spend up to a year and a half, I think it was. I can't remember the exact time,
Okay.
but in county jail with option for work release. They let me go for, I think, 3 days because I had my son still,
Okay.
and so I could figure out who was gonna care for him while I was away, and he was about, mm, 3 at the
3.
time, I wanna say.
Okay.
Yeah. So then I go to jail and, that was a whole experience in itself. I learned a lot through that experience though. It wasn't like I went in and it was like complete chaos. Like I saw that when I walked through those doors, as scared as I was, I saw all these other women and women who I may have judged on the outside. I may have looked at and said, "Oh, I don't ever wanna be like that person. Like, look at her. She's out there being a prostitute and doing drugs," or whatever it was. Like, I was judgmental as a young adult. So I am in but now I'm submerged with it, and I look around, I remember thinking, "Wow, like, I'm just like them. Like, I can't judge anybody because we're all surviving the only way we know how. And
You
that's what I was
actually
doing.
did the year and a half.
I was in for 8 months. I got out early. I had my
Mhm.
daughter while I was incarcerated, and I also gave her to the same family that I gave my firstborn daughter to. So I gave them both up for adoption because the guy who I had her with, I didn't trust, and I just didn't and I obviously had no idea what I was gonna do. Now I'm a convicted felon. I
Uh-huh.
didn't wanna bring her into my turmoil. I She
Got it.
deserved more than that. And so that happened, and then I get out, and I still didn't have my wake up call. I was still attracting toxicity into my life, and it wasn't until about 2 years ago,
Okay.
I well, 5 years ago, I left a highly abusive relationship with a narcissist,
Okay.
and but 2 years ago was my true wake up call when I almost destroyed my now marriage. And at this time, I had met some new people in my life who were telling me that he didn't love me and that I could do better, and I was still very weak from leaving my abuser, my narcissist,
Mhm.
and so I was believing all these lies still. I was believing I wasn't good enough, I didn't deserve his love, and I convinced myself that he didn't love me and that he was gonna hurt me, and I did things that I shouldn't have done. I was talking to somebody else. I was just falling back into old Amanda, like, who I didn't wanna be.
Mhm.
And I remember I was sitting in my closet of our bedroom at the time, and I'm just crying hysterically. I'm by myself, and I was like, "I'm just gonna end my life because I can't keep doing this. Like, I don't know what is going on and why these people constantly come into my life that are trying to hurt me."
Mhm.
But I don't know, like, what the exact thing that happened in that moment, but something changed in my brain, and I was like, "Well, if this keeps happening, what am I doing that's attracting this into my life? Like, there has to be something wrong with me. Not wrong with me, but something I don't realize about myself." And as I started thinking about that, I was like, "Well, what can I do?" Like, I'm devastated. I don't have a job right now. Like, I just felt so worthless. So I reached out to my husband for help, and I told him the truth and how I was feeling, and he really helped me. He gave me the space to figure myself out. Like, he didn't leave me, he stayed. And I started looking at myself as, how can I accept my and love myself? And I had to start looking inward. What are my values? What are my boundaries? What will I not tolerate in my life? And as soon as I defined those for myself, it didn't happen overnight, but I notice now today sitting here talking with you that I don't have any toxicity in my life anymore. Like, I don't attract it, and if I do, I know how to not allow it to stay there. I have my boundaries, and I can recognize things a lot quicker by listening to myself and trusting me, not listening to everybody else or the shoulds of the world, and doing what feels good to me for my life and my family, and protecting myself from being sucked into drama or toxicity in my life.
Oh my gosh, Amanda. I see why when you started, you're like, my story, we could go for hours. I
Yes.
mean, there are different levels to this. I'm so happy, thankful that your life has made a major 360 now, you know? And you're the prime example of everyone has a unique story to share that can definitely be an eye opener for others. Now, I'm going to be dissecting you.
Okay.
Yeah, so how old are you now, Amanda?
I'm 37.
Okay, we're not far off. I'm 38.
Yeah.
So
I'll be
we're
38 in January,
30
so
in
we're
January,
close.
and I'll be 39 in March.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're
Well,
not far off in age. So we're like the pretty much the same, like we're going through like the same years. We're growing
yes.
up, same age, same everything. Okay, so 37 years old. So now let's go back to at 15. How was your home life with your parents before then? Were things fine?
Mhm. Yeah, my parents, like, they fought like normal married people
Mm-hmm.
do, but there was never any abuse that I saw. There was never, like, they always seemed to get along. Like, my dad did
Mhm.
his thing, my mom did her thing, and then we would have dinner together. Like, it was a typical 90s family, there wasn't anything odd going on that I knew about. So, yeah, it was normal from
O
my experience.
okay, so now, like you said, you and your mother were really good friends,
Mhm.
and all of a sudden, one day, your mother walks away from you and your father. That like, you came home from school. Try to give us a picture of that day. Where were you? And how did you find that information out one day?
Yes. So I remember getting off the bus and I hated high school.
Mhm.
So I was very excited to be home.
Okay.
And I remember I opened up the mailbox and there was this thing, I don't know if they still do it, but it was called like Who's Who among like American high schoolers, or it was
Oh.
some sort of like if you were doing really well in school, you could get listed in this book.
Mhm.
And I think you had to be nominated. I don't remember, but I got something in the mail that I was going to be listed in it. And I was so excited. And I noticed that my mother's car wasn't there, and I was like, "Where's my mom?" So, like, I walked in, and my dad was sitting on the couch, which was very strange, and I was like, "Where's mom?" I'm pretty sure I said something like that, and I could just see it in his face. He had been crying or something was going on, and he was like, "Your mother and I are getting divorced." And I remember I was angry. I didn't understand. I was like, "What?"
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
"Wait, like, I don't understand." And it was really hard, like, the emotions that I experienced in that moment, I don't think I had experienced prior to that at all, nothing close to that.
So your mother and you were close. Like you were close with your mother. It's not
Mhm.
like it was one of those mother and daughter relationships. You're in your teenage years, and you know how it is once that girl starts to grow up, you get your period, you're going through that stage. And,
Yeah.
usually your mother's not your best friend, but you and your mother spoke every day. And she
Mhm.
did not give you an explanation. She did not
Mm-mm.
say anything to you, and you did not know this was coming.
No, I mean, I she may have, like, hinted at it at some point, but I don't. Either she did or she didn't, but either way, I didn't believe it if she did. Like, it was
Got
just
it.
one of those things where, like, I did not expect it at all. And my mother and I, yes, we were very close, but now that I'm an adult and I did a lot of that self-discovery work, what I realized is that my mother sheltered me. So she would,
Um,
I would come home and have a new friend, and she would tell me that friend was weird. Like, even to this day, she does not accept other people that I bring into my life. Like, if it was up to
mm.
my mother, I would still live with her. Like,
Mm,
she's very, I, she is a narcissist, but I hate saying that, but she is, and she thinks that I should stop everything to do things for her. So when I look back at my childhood and certain things I'll say, like, to my husband or whatever, he'll be like, "What?" I was like, "Well, my mom told me that." And he'd be like, "Well, that's not true."
mhm.
And like, I was very sheltered by TV too, like, if she didn't like it, we didn't watch it, like, it was just I was very sheltered.
Got
So,
it.
but as a kid, I thought I didn't know any better, so I
Now, before I dissect into everything else to try to understand, did you call her that day? When did you finally have a conversation with her mom? Where are you at? And where did she go? Did she ever divulge that to you?
Yes, I eventually talked to her. I don't remember, it wasn't, like, too long after she had just dumped ship, so to speak.
I know, that's what she did.
But yeah, she definitely did. That was, yeah, totally unexpected. But she went to my grandmother's, her mother's house.
Oh.
Yeah, so she was there for a little bit, and then we don't know, like, my mom will never admit this, like, I don't know if she was cheating on my dad or not, but it was, like, immediately after they divorced, she was with another man who abused
Mm,
her physically and in every way possible, and that was really hard for me too because I was helping her flee him, and then she'd be back with him, and it was really hard.
okay. So yeah, and that at least clear up a little holes in the story. And unless your
Yeah.
mother is here to share her part, we can just, take it for what it is. We don't know if she was cheating, but uh, something was pulling her away from her family. Rather, it
Mhm.
was an affair, mental illness, or depression. We don't know. She would have to share that, but that is just absolutely strange. And normally you don't hear mothers doing it, although it does happen. Yes, it does happen. You hear mostly fathers walking away, but for your mother to just pick up and just be like, I'm gone, peace out, you two figure it out. That
Yeah.
is just strange for a woman to do that, especially a mother. Okay, so now at 15, things start to unravel. Parents are not together. You failed college. You had a relationship. You started cheating on that person. Was that the person that you got pregnant by?
No. So I was dating a guy off and on since I was 17 up
Uh-huh.
until 23. So he's the guy who I was cheating on, mostly in college.
Okay.
Um, no, he's not who got me pregnant. When I came back, I met a guy at the place I was working, and me and that guy had broken up, and I started dating this guy. And I
Oh,
had to move in with him because when my father sold the house out from underneath of me, I had
exactly.
nowhere to go. So me and him were dating, and that's how that occurred.
So it wasn't the relationship person. It wasn't the side piece. It was some random dude who's the father of your daughter. Was it
Well,
a girl, the first one?
yes,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. They were both girls, but
Okay.
it's so the guy that I had the first one with, he was someone that I was dating that I worked with.
Ah,
So
okay.
yeah,
Okay.
he wasn't like a one night stand, but yeah, he was
Gotcha.
a new person in my life. He was also about 10 years older than me.
Oh, he was an
So
older man. Did you tell him about the pregnancy, or till this day this man
yes,
oh, he knows.
yeah, he knows.
He agreed
Hmm.
to the adoption?
He did. Yeah, after a little bit, yes, he did.
Okay. All right. Now, the two children, that is amazing that the same family was able to take both your girls. Do you have an open adoption?
No. So I was getting pictures for a while there, and I stopped getting them randomly, and it had been a while, it's been years,
Hmm.
and after I released an episode of my show that I talked about my first adoption experience, I started to feel all those emotions that I hadn't dealt with, so I reached back out to the agency that I used, and they're trying to get in contact with the family to see about, giving me more, recent pictures, because the most recent picture I have is from 2013.
I see. Got it. And were the adoption agency the middle party? They didn't come directly from the parents who adopted your girls. It was the agency that was sending you the pictures.
Yes.
So I
Yes.
see. They are the ones who cold turkey kind of just stopped sending stuff to the agency. So now the
Yeah.
agency's trying to reach back out. And what type of adoption is this considered? Because what I know, me being not really educated in the adoption world, there's open and there's closed, but I guess there's more parts to it.
Yeah, it's pretty much closed. I don't really remember, to be honest,
Oh,
but I think
okay.
it's called like semi-open. So like I'm allowed to write them letters. I'm allowed to, they can send me pictures and stuff like that, but I can't like have their phone number or see them in person or anything like that unless the parents choose to. Because when I had my second daughter, I met my oldest daughter. They brought her with them
Got it.
to the hospital.
Got it. Okay. So how old are the girls?
My oldest is see, this is a problem. I don't remember, exact birthdays, and when I told the adoption agency, they said that was normal, so I felt much better about that
Oh,
because I feel very guilty.
okay.
But my oldest will be 8, I believe she'll be 18 next year, and my youngest is around 12.
Okay, got it. 18 and 12. And how does that make you feel? And I ask that question because, I'm a mother myself. I have two living children that I birthed, but I've had, now I gotta count this. One, two. Okay, so I've had four pregnancies, one abortion, one miscarriage. The abortion and the miscarriage, it it lives with you forever. Of course, I understand every woman is different. The miscarriage, of course, we all know that is something that it's just what life throws at you. You have no control over that. But the miscarriage was a choice that I made because I got pregnant at 17. And I did not have proper support around me. I was stressed, I was depressed, I had a lot going on. I wanted to finish high school, and of course, I wasn't getting basically, I was being treated like I was shit and my world was about to end from those people around me. So I was like, I couldn't handle this. I couldn't deal this. So I made a decision that I felt was the best one at the time. I feel if I had a better support system, my decision would have been different.
Mhm.
So I understand what it means to give birth to a child when you said, you thought you were okay, but you weren't. I mean, how really truly are you present day? Because what I did, it, it, it's a piece of me that I will never forget. And even till this day, sometimes I have to, just kind of tell myself, it's okay, Shirley, you did what you had to do at the time. You can't crucify yourself forever about it. You know, you have to just be accepting of it, move forward, and, don't let it get to you. There are days where I have this whole reminiscing in my mind about how life could have been if I made another decision. So I understand slightly when you say, like, I thought I was okay, but I wasn't. But how are you truly today?
With the adoptions, I'm not 100%. So I have not necessarily hid that part of me, but it was a struggle for me to decide whether or not I was gonna be public about that
Mm-hmm.
because I'm still very much emotionally attached to it, so it wouldn't be something that I could talk to in front of, like, an audience or anything like that because I would probably cry. But I I have a picture of them now that I have on my desk,
Mm-hmm.
and I do think about what it would have been like, especially with my oldest. Like, my youngest, even though when I did that, it was harder than the first time, I really know that I made the right choice, but there's something about my oldest that I always felt like I made the wrong choice.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I didn't, like, deep down, I know I did what was good best for her, but I feel like she was I don't know how to explain it. Like, I just remember being pregnant with her. I remember everything with
Mm-hmm.
her and how when I think about my life, like, well, if I would have kept her, I'd have this beautiful almost adult daughter, like, by my side, and I messed that up, like, because I didn't feel that I could do it, but what if I could? Like, what if I would have done this and this and this, and then I go down that rabbit hole, and it's like, "Ah, stop," you know? So, now that I'm more emotionally stable than I used to be with
Mm-hmm.
everything else that's happened to me, I'm starting to go into that to heal myself so that if they did come to find me, I'm not like a complete basket case, because I don't even know if I can promise that even if I am healed.
Yeah.
So, but I think about it a lot. And now that she's older, about to be an adult, like I hope and pray that she wants to find me. Like
Gotcha.
I want it.
And
So
I
it's
understand what
hard.
that means. It is hard. I totally understand what you mean. You know, um, what would you say to the girls? Because you have your son. How old is your
Mhm.
son?
My son is 15. I also have a daughter. She's 8.
Oh, okay. So you have a 15 and an 8-year-old. And the 8-year-old, is that by your husband now?
No, she is from my ex, the one
The
who's a
5-year,
narcissist.
the
Yes.
narcissist. Got it.
Yeah.
Okay. What would you say to the girls if they ask you, why us? You kept our brother who was after your oldest, yet before the third,
Mhm.
you know. The last one, okay, maybe they might have a little more understanding for the 8-year-old. You changed your life around. But why them? And why not your brother? Why
So
not their
that
brother?
yeah, that so this is a hard one, but I will answer it. So I was with his dad and I got pregnant by him, my
Hmm.
son. This is about my son. And I left him though. So I was leaving him because his abuse and I had an abortion
Oh, before your son or after your son?
before my son.
Got it. Got it.
And the guilt that I felt
Mm.
from that made me feel that I had to go back to my abuser and have a child with him so I could make up that mistake that I thought that I made. And so I kept him because that's, like, hard to put into words, but I felt like, I chose him, I wanted him, I made the choice to have him. I felt like if I didn't keep him and I placed him for adoption, that I didn't wanna go through that again. And the only reason why I gave my other one up is because I was incarcerated, and like I said earlier, I didn't wanna put her through that, but that is why I kept my son.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. Pregnancies, miscarriages, abortions, adoptions, they're hard.
Mhm.
I don't care what you're going through in your life, what the challenges may be. Most women, I'm not going to say all, everyone is different, so I can't put everyone in that category. But most women, it is hard. And it's a piece of your life you will never forget. You know, with the abortion, I can totally understand. It haunted me for years. If I saw someone that was pregnant, immediately I'd have like flashbacks. Um, a baby, I had flashbacks. There are times where I had to separate myself from a child, and I didn't make these things obvious, but these were the triggers that I was internally going through because of this decision that I've made. And it it's always going to haunt. There's a part of it that's always going to haunt me, no matter how healed I am. And I'm healed because I'm able to talk about it, because I always want to be a voice for others. But there are internal things that I will forever have to deal with, that comes along with some of these decisions that you make in life. And that's the hard work that you have to do on a daily basis. Because also don't want people to think when you use the word, quote unquote, I'm using with my hands, healed, it's not like these memories never come back or you don't have triggers. Because every single day you have to find the strength. There are days that are going to be better than others. There are days that it's going to hit you hard, Amanda. And you're going to be like, oh my gosh, I got to rethink my mind. I have to like do something because today is like heavy for me. And you really can't pinpoint why
Yeah.
sometimes. It could be something as small as a word you heard or a song you heard that took you back to that moment that just brings everything back. So, listeners, don't assume that healed means like everything is great and
Yeah.
okay and we're living this perfect life. No, it's not. It's consistently on a daily basis doing the work that needs to be done to live a positive life and not allow your past to haunt you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So now we're going to tap into cocaine.
Mm.
How did you get into drugs? Your whole life, seemed like you weren't introduced that. Now you were dealing with other things, domestic violence, and different type of abuse, both emotionally and verbal. Why drugs? How did you get into that?
Yeah. So in college is when, well, had drank and smoked weed before college, but nothing else.
Got it.
And when I got to college, first semester I was okay,
Uh-huh.
but second semester I had to find like a new roommate, I think it was, for my dorm room, and this girl who I found at a frat party, I was like, "Oh my gosh, you have to be my roommate." So she moved in with me and I was all excited, and turns out that she had gotten a prescription for anxiety for benzodiazepine called Klonopin.
Hmm.
And she was like, "You have to take this." She's like, "It's gonna make you feel amazing." Like, I was scared. I was like, "I've never done pills before." I really was like hesitant, but I was like, "But she won't like me if I don't." So I did. And I didn't just like swallow the pill. I was snorting them, and it became like a huge problem to the point where the first day I ever took pills, first time ever in my life, I overdosed the next day because I didn't know that all the pills I had taken the night before weren't out of my system yet. So when I woke up the next day, I was with this guy and we were gonna go outside and smoke a joint, and I was like, "Yeah, let's go do that." And as soon as I hit the joint, it must have, like, made something react in my body,
Uh-huh.
and I remember everything had a rainbow over it, and I just remember going, "Whoa," and then I just lost all functioning myself. Like, I was puking, I was just like I was, like, dead weight, he had to, like, carry me, and they had to call the it was a huge scene.
Oh my. So you've
Yeah.
overdosed. Oh, now let's
Mhm.
add that to the list.
Yeah, let's just add that.
Oh my gosh. Okay, overdosed in college. My
Yes. So,
goodness.
the cocaine came later. I dabbled with pills a lot since that point. Overdosing stopped me for a minute, but didn't keep me away from them,
Mhm.
including opiates, all any pill I could take, I wanted to take. And so now I was drinking again because when had my son, I stopped doing drugs. Like, I didn't do anything.
Mhm.
And I had slowly started to drink again, and then when my friend and I moved in together, we went to this local bar, and she was like, "Come on, like, let's go to this other bar. There's somebody over there that I want you to meet," or something like that, like, it was something stupid. So I was like,
Mhm.
"Okay." So
Mhm.
we're drunk, and we get to this bar. Well, this guy ended up being a dealer, and she wanted to go to his trailer and continue the party there. And I said, "Okay," and I brought this guy that I randomly met because those are the very safe and great choices I made back then. Um, and we get there and there's cocaine, and she's like, "Oh, Amanda, like, you should try it." And I looked at this guy, I was like, "Do you think I should try it?" And he was like, "I don't care, like, do what you want," or something. I was like, "Okay." So I did it, and it was like instant I'm addicted to this. I wanna feel like this all the time. I didn't care about anything. I felt like I could just nonstop. I felt powerful, like all the things. And we started to buy off this guy like all the time. So it's very cocaine is not a cheap addiction to have. And I remember I didn't like to do it when I was drunk because I didn't feel the high of the cocaine enough when I was drunk. So it was all
Okay.
like, wake up, do coke until you crash. Well, you weren't sleeping. So I don't know why I said wake up.
It keeps you
But
up?
yes, it keeps you very much up. If I was high on coke right now, I would be talking so fast you would have no idea like what I was even
Oh.
talking about. Like, it speeds you up. And I remember I had a job at a nursing home,
Mhm.
and we had run out and I had to go to work to make the money to buy the coke. And I get there. I remember I just broke out in this massive sweat. I was like, I can't. I was shaking. It was bad. So I end up getting home and I just crashed. And I had plans that night, and I was supposed to get my son that night. And the next thing I know, like, this is probably like your typical off times, maybe 3 o'clock or so.
Mhm.
Passed out. I didn't wake up again till 4 AM, and I had, like, all these, like, texts on my phone, missed calls. I'm like, I just missed, like, an entire almost entire day of my life because of cocaine. Yeah, it's bad. It was
Oh my
horrible.
gosh. So, 2 things. You in your younger years, you kept saying, "I didn't wanna lose my friend. I didn't wanna
Mhm.
lose my friend. I didn't wanna lose my friend." I've heard that quite a few times in this story. Is it because from that moment when you lost your mother and she just walked away from you and your father, do you think this is why this has all started? Have you, like, were able to unravel this during therapy?
Yes, so it had a lot to do, yes, my mom, but more so my dad. So
Ah,
I when he abandoned me, I mean, yes, I was technically an adult, but I was still, like, a teenager, but
gotcha.
Um, it affected me, and because not only did my mom choose somebody else over me, because at
Mhm.
this point in my when I was, like, 19-ish, me and my mom weren't speaking, not out of her choice, so to speak, but it was because the guy she was with threatened my life, so she didn't want to put me in that position.
Gotcha.
So, I had nobody. So, anybody that showed me attention or, showed love, quoting love to me, I couldn't lose. I couldn't risk it because if I did, I'd be alone and I couldn't handle being alone.
And that was scary because you didn't
Yeah.
want to go through what you went through between your mom and your dad. So you soaked up every little bit of quote unquote love that your friends were giving you, which really wasn't love. It was toxic bullshit being fed to you. But of course, you didn't realize that.
Yeah. 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 It was to the point where like she could have, because that one person in particular, like there's still a part of me to this day that wishes that me and her were still friends, but in a way that was healthy. Like I wish that we, instead of doing drugs together, that we would have went to college together or we would have done
Mm,
something good together, but
gotcha.
that's not what happened at all.
Gotcha. Gotcha. There are some people, they're not, the nice way for me to say it, they could be great individuals, but because of some of their poor choices in life, you have to keep them at bay and keep them a distance. So
Yes.
I understand that. Yeah. Now, you said home. What were you calling home and where were you staying and where was your son during all this? You kept saying, I wanted to get my son. You said that a few times.
Yeah, so I had primary custody of my son at this point, and so me and his dad had like, yes, I had primary, but we would split weeks. So like I'd have him one whole week, then he'd have him one whole week, and then if I could extend it. Like it was very free flowing because even though his dad abused me, we really made up as friends afterwards. And I
Gotcha.
was also good friends with his girlfriend, so it was kind of like a three-pronged parentship. I don't think that's a word, but I just made it up.
That's
So
okay.
yeah, so he was typically, with his dad. There were times where he'd be with me when I was in active addiction. And I remember waking up to him like in his like car seat thing, and I would just like set him next to my bed so I could sleep, and then I'd wake up and he'd be there. Or I remember his dad would like show up with him and be like banging on the door, and it was a lot of chaos. There was
Oh.
no, I can't even begin to tell you in words how chaotic my life was before I went to jail.
So now you mentioned your grandmom. Did you have a relationship with grandmom, your mother's mother? Because other than your parents, did you have any other family member to lean on?
Not to lean on, no. So my grandmother, yes, we had a relationship that was, she was always around. Like my mom, me, and her and my sister would go shopping every
Oh,
weekend, but
there's
there
a
was no,
sister.
yeah, I have an older sister. She wasn't around when all this was
She had
happening for the
already
most part.
left when your mom
Hmm.
walked out.
Yeah. She was not even in the States. She married a military guy, and yeah,
Oh,
that's a whole other story.
she's way older
But
then.
well, I was 15, she was 19. Yeah, she's 4 years older than me.
Okay, so yeah, so she was already out when your mom decides, like, I'm leaving. So it really
Yes.
didn't
Yeah.
affect her as much.
Right. Exactly.
Okay,
Yeah.
and go ahead. I'm sorry. Go with your grandma.
Oh, my grandmother. Yeah. So like there was no like I wouldn't call my grandma or
Oh,
it
okay.
wasn't that kind of relationship. So no, I had no one
Okay. So
besides
it was
whatever
just
friends I had.
whatever friends you had, whatever
Mhm.
guy you were dealing with at the time, and his company. That's pretty much who your family was at that time.
Yes.
Got it. Okay. How long did you strip for?
Um I don't know really. It's probably at least 6 months, if not longer
Oh,
than
it
that, because
wasn't long.
it wasn't years or anything. No, when I first got released after being arrested, I did have a slight moment of I'm gonna better myself, but then
Hmm.
I couldn't handle going for a job interview, not knowing if I had to tell people about this. So I ended up dating this guy, and we were looking through the want ads, and he didn't have a job either. And I was like, "Oh, look, there's an amateur night at this club. Should I go?" And he was like, "Yes, absolutely, you should.
Amanda, here you
You
go
need
with
to
these
do that."
questions ago. You need someone else to give you the okay for you to do something.
Yep, that's how I
Girl,
was.
should I go? There's amateur night. What do you think? Should I go? So you couldn't even make your own decisions.
No, I had no backbone. I just did whatever. And the guy I was dating when I decided to strip, like he made me feel like I had to because I had to make money. because we were broke.
You were
He couldn't
broke.
go out and get a
No,
job,
he
but
couldn't. No, but you could go, shake
uh-huh.
your little ass and get
Yeah.
us a little money.
Yep.
Oh my goodness. Girl, if I was your friend, I would have, and I wasn't the strongest individual. I feel like we all have our fuck ups, but I would have slapped the shit out of you. Should I
He should
go?
have.
Yes. Girl, you done said, should I go? You just needed that okay from every friend. Should I do this
Mhm.
drug? What do you think?
Yep.
Girl.
That was
Mm,
my life up until yeah,
yeah.
up
Up
until a
until,
couple years
yeah.
ago. Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. So let's talk about jail. Now, I've never been incarcerated. The only incarceration I've ever had is I had a little incident when I worked at Macy's and I underrang items. And, they found out through the video cameras at the mall and they called the police on me. The guy came. Dude felt so sorry for me. He's like, I'm not going to put you in no jail cell. Just sit right here in this chair while I process your paperwork and send you home. So that's the closest to jail I've ever experienced. You did 8 months.
Mhm.
How the hell? And how many months pregnant were you?
When I went in, like, I was pretty much in there the entire pregnancy. Like, I had just found out not that long before
Oh,
being
because you did
sentenced.
8 months. So
Yeah.
when you went in, you probably was like, what, 3 months? Because you said you delivered her in jail. So you had to be like 3 or 4 months.
No, probably not even that far along. It's probably like a month or 2 because as soon as I gave birth, and a couple of days later, I got released.
Oh, okay. So
Yeah,
you
so
literally were pregnant the whole entire. Do you
yeah.
think that saved you? That was and that sounds fucked up for me to say it like that, but do you think that was maybe possibly a saving grace for you in there?
Yes, all of my children saved me. All of them, every single one of them. And, with her, she kept me safe. Like, I feel like if I wasn't pregnant, I
Yeah.
don't know if it would have been the same experience at all.
Because did they now being pregnant in jail, do they put you in a different population? Do the
No.
women actually are a little more understanding? Because I've just heard of what did I was it locked up? Something I've watched and it's not it's not easy. And I have no room to comment. I haven't experienced it. I don't even know what it's like other than what I've seen on TV. But were the girls mean to you? Was there lesbian activity going on in there? So these are all the questions I have. Like, were you threatened? Like, girl, if you don't do this to her, then we're fucking you up.
No, I never
Okay.
experienced anything like that. Like, yes, there was drama, there were fights,
Uh-huh.
all, but I was never involved. And I feel like the baby bump is what kept me
Good. Okay.
uninvolved.
Okay.
But I did, when I finally, there was lesbian activity
G-
constantly, both when
Gotcha.
I was in main population and then when I got into the work release program. It was still jail, but it was a different building.
Uh-huh.
Uh, it was going on there too. Like, people were always hooking up in the showers, or it
Gotcha.
was, it was
It
great.
was just, it was, is what it is. You had to
Yeah,
fulfill your sexual desires, and this is what you had to do.
yeah.
Okay. So that's why I asked that question because I'm like, I can only imagine if you weren't pregnant, what the experience would be like and how the girls would have treated you, especially when they like to say fresh blood.
Yeah, I didn't experience when I got arrested because I wasn't pregnant when I got arrested.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was in there for that week, what happened was weird. So it wasn't anything like bad, but there was one girl who was like, "I know why you're locked up or in here or something." And I was like, "Why?" And she was like, "Because you have a hot body or something." And I was like, "What?"
What?
What? Like, why are you saying that to me? And back then when I was that young, I was, yes, I was still shy, but like from being through what I had already experienced, I
Mm-hmm.
kind of just held my own ground in that regard. But being pregnant definitely saved me. I mean, women would give me food, if I didn't have
Okay.
money, like there's little perks to being the pregnant woman incarcerated.
Incarcerated.
But in main population, it was different. Like, I think if I would have stayed in main population the whole time, it would have been a lot worse
Got it.
because I had my cellmate or cellie, um, wanted me to go get a sonogram and smuggle tobacco back into the jail. And I said, "Absolutely not, and I'm gonna wait till I get on work release because then I could go to, like, an actual doctor and not go in shackles," and I thought that would be more comfortable.
Got it.
So
Okay.
but she made me feel guilty for that. She was like, "Oh, well, you don't care about your baby," like, so but at the end of the day, she just wanted me to do it
She
so I
just
could.
wanted you to do that.
Yeah.
I see, and
Mhm.
you're right. The children saved you. They at
Yeah.
least with the children you were able to find some type of backbone where you weren't doing drugs because I'm assuming none of the children were born addicted, correct?
No.
So
Mm-mm.
the children gave you a little bit of backbone to be able to make good decisions for them.
Yes. Yeah, I didn't even smoke cigarettes. I smoked a little bit towards the end of my pregnancy in jail because we had a smoking closet,
Hmm.
and, I was I don't know, but I did a little bit, but no, nothing, nothing, like, I didn't even have a
Gotcha.
beer, like, there
That's
was
good.
nothing,
And
nothing
that's
going
good.
in.
That's good. Count your blessings and the children are healthy. All your children are healthy. So, you know, the last question I have before we talk about present life, the guy who assaulted you and because it was you and four other people, it was the five of you, right?
Yes, it was me, my friend, and 3 guys.
Got it. And you told your friend the story and this is what they thought they were going to do to get back at this guy for doing that to you.
Pretty much, like, I told her prior to, this day, but that was, like, the reasoning behind part of the reasoning, and we thought he had money. So, because he was promising us me, and then eventually my friend as well, like, promising us money and drugs and all this
Hmm.
stuff, and yeah, it was bad. It was a really bad choice for all
Did
of
you
us.
have to see him at,
I did. I had to
you know,
apologize to him.
what the fuck? That's what I wanted to ask you. You had no one to turn to. This
Mm-mm.
man assaulted you in ways that even till this day you cannot speak of. And you had to apologize to this ass
Mhm.
in court. Granted, not saying your actions were, uh, what's the word? D- Robbing him was the positive thing to do. But this individual assaulted you and you had to, yeah, apologize to him.
Yep, I had to say I forget what the exact words was, but basically, like, "I'm sorry for any harm I may have caused through my actions," or something like that, and I had to do that in front of, like, the judge with, like, the public behind me and friends and family or not my friends and family. The only guy who showed up for me was the father of child I was pregnant with, but
Mm, mm.
yeah, it was very hard, and we got charged, me and my friend. The guys didn't get charged with this, but we got charged with promoting prostitution, but didn't get charged with any. He just walked away.
You've been to therapy, right?
Yes.
Did you share this with your therapist and what did they provide? What advice did they provide for you for this? Because to me, this just sounds fucked up, cruel, and it's like you're now apologizing to your abuser, the person who did this to you. And what does that do to a person's psyche?
Right. So therapy has been an on again, off again thing for me. Right out of incarceration, I went into an intensive outpatient program and I
Mm-hmm.
loved my therapist there. I don't remember if I told her about that specific part, but everyone knew I was sexually assaulted.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember the best advice she ever gave me is I have OCD.
Mm-hmm.
So, and not like the where I just like things clean. It's like I obsess in my brain,
Oh, you're
racing
worse
thoughts.
than me.
Like,
You're worse racing thoughts. I have a slight OCD, but not as bad. But it's like I want things in order. Things need to be a certain way.
yeah,
So I get it. And if
yeah,
things are like messed up, it's like I have to now calm my brain because like they're on high alert. Like, Shirley, things are going wrong. This is not
yeah.
good.
Organizing, yeah, because like it's funny because I am like that, but my desk and my work area is always a mess, and it makes me So that's like when I know I'm going into overwhelm is when I look around and everything's a disarray. And right now I
Mm.
know my kitchen is dirty and it is literally driving me nuts.
I know the feeling. I know the feeling. I know exactly what you're going through. So
But yes,
go ahead.
the best advice she ever gave me was when I have racing thoughts, not out loud, well, you can out loud, but like in your
Hmm.
head, scream, stop.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, that helped me so much because I would obsess. I still obsess.
Hmm.
It's not like I'm cured of OCD, but to the point where I would be so depressed like all the time. It's like I just walked around sad. Like I never felt happy. And if I did feel happy, I was just waiting for it all to fall apart again because that's what I was used to. So in doing that, it helped me a lot get over some of the things that I was like the thoughts I was experiencing about, from being now I'm living life on the outside as a convicted felon. That's
Hmm.
a lot to take in.
So let's now look at present day
Yay.
in your life and how things have changed drastically. Share that with us
Yes.
and how you are going to be helping other women because your story is you touch every fucking piece of life, my dear, from sexual abuse to infidelity to pregnancy, abortion, adoption, drug use, jail, overdose. You've been in very many relationships. You have so many different angles that you can talk from with life experience. We're not just talking book smarts here, but life experience to share. I love people who can share from life experience because yes, book smart it is great and I'm all for it. But when you can do both, that is fucking phenomenal. So many different angles that you can approach.
Yeah,
So,
I could literally talk about anything. So,
yeah. So, how is life now? And what are you doing to change other women's lives?
yes. So, life now is calm for the most part. I
Mm-hmm.
am still with my husband. We've been married now for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. I have I have 50/50 custody of my 8-year-old daughter, so she's with me part-time, and that's wonderful, and my son, while he's in school, I only see him on the weekends,
Mm-hmm.
because of what transpired,
Okay.
and everything is really great. I
Mm-hmm.
can't complain. I still deal with negative self-talk. I'm not like you said earlier, I'm not walking around like, "I'm perfect now." No,
Mm-hmm.
I get triggered, and some days are I'm more triggered than others.
Mm-hmm.
But I will say that through the power of affirmations, through the power of visualization, through tapping into my intuition and trusting myself and really listening to myself, I'm now able to sit here and talk about my life to help others. And I no longer feel shame attached to it. Yes, there are things that I've been through that I wish I would have made a better choice, but I can't change it. So I accept it and I forgive myself. And now I want to share my story either by speaking or on my podcast to the world to inspire and give hope to others who've experienced things like I have to get out of that shame and come into loving themselves and accepting themselves because we can't show up as the best version of ourselves without loving ourselves first. You are number one. You have to love yourself, and we all make mistakes, but I'm telling you, you can forgive yourself and you can do amazing things regardless of what you've been through. I'm going to be starting to coach people as well. Next month, I'm launching that. And to help people develop a better relationship with themselves and just taking them through a framework that I developed based off of what I've been through and how I had to work through the self-hate and the no self-worth to get to I love me now. I
Mm-hmm.
have resources. I have a support system. I'm attracting positive people into my life. And like I said earlier, now if someone negative comes in, yeah, they're gonna slip in. I'm telling
Mm-hmm.
you, because they want
Yes.
to. And it's having those boundaries to be able to, number one, recognize it before it's too late. Because I would recognize it before, but it was always too late.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm able to recognize it. And I want to teach people that. I want people to know that there is a way and that it is possible, and that no matter what you've been through, you can have the life you imagine, and also that you are stronger than you think you are. I'm telling you, you are. If you look back at your life and things you have been through and where you're at now, you're going to say, holy shit, I'm a badass, strong woman, period.
Absolutely. I agree. You can definitely have the life that you imagine. What
Mhm.
is a motivational message, phrase, word that you want to leave our listeners with based on how you were able to turn things around, and someone who is literally, this message is for someone who is at their lowest point in life right now and they feel like there's no end to this road. I'm never going to get to this happy place, quote unquote happy. I'm never going to get to a healthy place. That's what I should say.
Yes. So, what I would tell someone listening who is feeling that way is that you are good enough. And regardless of what you've been through, you can conquer those demons. It is possible for you. It was possible for me. And I guarantee you it's possible for you. And you need to listen to yourself, period. Like, you know what is best for you in any situation. And a favorite affirmation of mine that I would like to give your audience as well is, I am an intention and what I want is waiting for me. That is my favorite one of all time. I made it, someone posted something similar on Instagram, and then I just turned it into an affirmation. So I love it.
I like
So,
that. I definitely like that. Oh my gosh. You left me a bit speechless and thinking, when you listen to these stories and then it just makes you realize that someone else been through something worse. When I think of my story, and everyone's story is unique, but it just makes me realize that when you can rise above from all that turmoil that you've been through, that life has brought you through, you know, definitely life doesn't throw anything at you that you can't handle.
yes. Oh, yes. I forgot to say that. So
Amanda,
true.
you're so cute. She said, I forgot to say that. Yeah, but it's true.
It is.
We're all able to pick back up, grab your bags, no matter how many times they fall off your hand when you're walking down that road because you feel weak. You feel just like you have no more energy and fatigued and you don't feel like going anymore. Just pick them bags back up and take them little baby steps, no matter how long it takes you to get to that clear path, because every single person has a story that is phenomenal in their own special way. And remember, listeners, don't feel shame in your story. Don't feel shame, because there's a life after death, what I like to say. Because sometimes what life throws at you, you literally will sit there and like, what the fuck is going on? That's all you can say. That's all you want to say, because you're like, where am I going to find the courage to deal with this shit?
Mm.
Literally. So, as we end today's episode, we want to thank you guys for listening. Amanda, again, thank you so much for opening up your heart, your voice, and sharing a piece of your life with us. All her information will be on the website. So please definitely go check her out, listen to her podcast. And what is the name of your podcast, Amanda?
It's called the Let Good Things In Show.
Let Good Things In Show. Definitely go hear her out. Do you share a piece of your story on there as well?
Oh, yes, every Monday. So it's a series right now. It's the My Story series, and every Monday I release a different part of my story in more detail, and then the lessons I learned from that part and affirmations. I'm obsessed with affirmations.
Wonderful. Wonderful. So definitely go check her podcast out, and her information will be available on the website. And as we always end, to love yourself, voice yourself, and be yourself. To the next podcast, guys, have a great one. Thanks for tuning in to Fanpale Podcast. If you want to continue the conversation or share your takeaways, I want to hear from you. Head on over to the website or join our Facebook community and comment your favorite part of the show or share your thoughts. I want to hear what you have to say. Don't forget to rate and subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Chat with you next week.